Hello, everyone. My name is Amit Das, and you're watching LaToken VCTV, Venture Capital TV, where investors and startups meet, and where the startups share their ideas and they get their feedback. So, if you are a startup looking for any kind of venture capital, then please hop into LaToken VCTV, where you can pitch to the investors from all around the world, and you can get a complete laundry list of objections that is required to reach your vision. So here we are today with panel members joining all from all over the world. We'll be talking about India rising opportunities. A country as huge as India has tapped into the world market and created its own signature. So let's hear from our panel members today. What do they think about India and how India is moving forward with technology, enabling technology. So yeah, let's start with a brief introduction of our panel members. Let's start with Gary. A brief introduction about you and the kind of work you have done so far.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say, is that brief enough? But yeah, my name's Gary Fowler. It's great to be here. And it's good to see friends. It makes me feel good on a Monday. I mean, I see a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is fantastic. I feel like we got a clubhouse here, not to be like the clubhouse, but our clubhouse. Anyhow, I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies. I write a lot. I've written 126 articles now. I love AI and quantum computing. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, a little less than 2 years ago. And also the co-founder of Viva.ai, an AI HR tech company, one of the top 10. Today, I'm the CEO, president, co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studios, taking companies and helping companies from all over the world use Silicon Valley as a port to create unicorns. And as we say, unicorns are mythical creatures, but at GSD, we make them real. So great to be here.
Thanks, Gary. Tushar, about you and the brief kind of work you have done so far.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amit. It's great to be back and discussing this very important subject yet again. Myself, Tushar Kansal from Consultancy Ventures. I have worked for private equity at Deloitte and Touche, where I handled assignments like JP and SMC. I've worked at Deloitte and Touche, Brand Capital, where we were instrumental in investing $100 million across companies. Also been head of treasury at the $2 billion MTS India, where I raised almost $2.5 billion of funds for the company, and was CFO of Distribution Logistics. That's a company owned by Guggenheim Partners. In my current avatar, since 7 years, I manage Consultancy Ventures. We assist companies which want to raise venture capital, and I myself an investor, having invested in 4 companies. So good to be back here.
Thank you, Tushar. Harsh, about you.
Hey Amit, glad to be back and glad to have familiar faces in Gary and Tushar back on the show. Always enjoy panel discussions with them. So a short bio about myself. My name is Harsh Shetia. I'm currently a founder of a Facebook group called Startup Hackers, where I'm basically helping early stage startups who are still at a very early stage understand the basics and nitty-gritties of startups and how they can actually build their first product, is their first investment, etc. Additionally, I'm also a venture partner with our ventures, where we help startups raise funds all the way up to $10 million, and we help them reach out to investors and get everything, get the documentation, get the processes set up. I've worked with Fortune 50 companies, worked with unicorn companies, and I personally have interest in sectors like health tech, fintech, SaaS, B2B, etc. And if any startup needs any help, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be glad to figure out something. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harsh. So let's jump directly into today's topic about India rising opportunities. So your opening remarks about what do you think about India from the last 50 years and moving forward, how India is enabling itself in the technology field. Let's begin with Tushar.
We are one of the last great consumer economies which offer a plethora of opportunities for investors. Our median age of this country is 29 years, almost 600 million youth, which form a large consumption bracket. and a country which has historically been very strong in consumer theme on a purchasing power parity basis. India's economy is $11 trillion, just behind China and US. And it's just that because there are a lot of poor people in the country, so the rupee is weak because we import more and we export less. And because the rupee is weak, our GDP in dollar terms is $2.7 trillion. But the government's mission and vision is to increase the GDP from $2.7 trillion to $5 trillion in a matter of next 5 to 6 years. This shows the opportunity. I tell this to a lot of investors globally that in case you want to capture GDP growth and you want to ride on GDP growth by investing in high tech, deep tech, disruptive tech companies, then India is the place to be. Because if you go to China, the dynamics of the economy are very different. You might have to give out your intellectual property. You'll have to do a JV, joint venture with a company in China. But India is the most open economy in terms of foreign direct investment, and it shows in the numbers. The foreign reserves of the country is excess of $500 billion, and given a size of 2.7 trillion, 500 billion is a very good number. In terms of micro specifics, the investment in tech has been very strong. Each day you look at the media like Your Story or VC Circle. Every day we get 2 to 3 tech investments, and that's the importance of the topic today we are discussing.
Thanks, Tushar. Gary, what do you think about India from the US point of view?
Yeah, I mean, there's untapped opportunities, right? Look at these amazing institutions like IIT and some of the technologies that come out of India. The key is it's like having a Ferrari in the garage. You got to get the Ferrari out of the garage, and that's one of the things that we do at GSD is really use Silicon Valley as a port. So it's about taking those technologies, applying them to global problems, and then open it up so that that company can seek the right kind of investment at the right kind of valuation at the right time to really realize their maximum potential. So it's an incredible opportunity, and it's untapped, and look at, the first stage of doing innovation is doing offshore outsourcing. I know when I was in Russia and I spent 14 years there, I mean, before there were really technology companies that had developed product, of course there were some, right? But they actually did offshore outsourcing. Then you start to understand how to build the right kind of things, the right product, the right place at the right time. So it's untapped. And this is really during the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, it's India's time to shine. And we love it. We just, the openness, the incredible talent of the people. And it's an amazing opportunity. So we're full steam ahead, and we believe it's an incredible future and happening now.
Thanks, Gary, for the brief introduction. Harsh, what do you think about India going forward?
So India as a geography, if you look at it, you have almost 1.3 billion people, and the kind of it's easier to say it's a country, but in reality, it's a whole continent altogether, right? With the kind of diversity that we have, and the kind of opinions, the people differences, the diversity, it is in a completely unimaginable level. You you have the geographical diversity of Europe, and you will find the same diversity in India. That's how diverse it is. And with that diversity comes, the varied opinions, various intellectual processes, various thought processes, and which creates a lot of opportunity for innovation, right? Just 5 years down the line, we have IIST actually launching Indian satellites to the moon, completely made in India, right? A couple decades back, it was completely unimaginable to think that India could actually come up with that kind of technology and send their own rockets to, outside the Earth. So that is how much the growth has been. In fact, just the last week, during the weekend, I had a discussion with a global space tech company, and they wanted to partner with Indian institutes, Indian educational institutions to tap into the local talent to help build their space technology, right? That is the kind of demand which people across the world, they see the opportunities which India possess. India has great number of people, a huge technical talent, huge business talent, a huge customer base. The amount of opportunities in India is absolutely mind-boggling. I already mentioned about space tech. There's another startup I'm in touch with, which is in health tech AI space, and the kind of technology that they're trying to build right now, it's still not there as of right now. And even big companies like Google and Amazon have still not managed to crack that kind of technology. And if that Indian company can manage to do that, it will literally be among the first company in the world to create that kind of technology. So this is the kind of real innovation that we are seeing on the ground in India. There's another electric vehicle company which I had a pleasure of interacting a couple of weeks earlier. Uh, Absolutely incredible. They've come up with incredible two-wheeler kind of designs, and it can be used everywhere. As in, the designs are just as fantastic as a Tesla, right? The biggest reason why EVs were not being adopted in the past was because the models were not that very impressive. But these guys have come up with such fantastic models that customer acceptance will also be very high for these. So that is why you see in the growth in technology and the lower cost of building a new startup, the lower cost of building prototypes and MVPs, that makes India a very lucrative hub for new innovation and new startups to come. If you look at US, to have a basic minimum product, it would easily take like a quarter to $500,000 just to get it going, right? In India, you can do it at a substantially lesser price, which makes it all the more advantageous for new startups originating in India and truly compete at the global level.
Great, Harsh. Thank you for that. So let's begin with our question rounds. Let's begin with what kind of problems so far we have faced the currently that India is facing in the field of technology and innovation, right? Because moving forward, yes, a lot of the big companies have realized that we as a nation, our talent as a nation has multifold growth. But what are the current challenges that we are facing, which when solved can accelerate this kind of growth? So let's first hear from Gary. What gap does he thinks that he sees when he looks at India as from a technology perspective? Gary, over to you.
Yeah, like I said, you look at it, it's like I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania, right? I grew up on a farm, the 500-person village. We're keep it simple, stupid. So the key is, you look at it, it's like I said, it's like having a Ferrari in a garage. If you don't take the Ferrari out and you're the only one who looks at it, it's still the Ferrari in the garage. So part of it is the sales and marketing, getting it out, letting people know what's going on so people can work together and create incredible companies. And, you got to get the message out. And because of the humbleness and introspection of the Indian environment, the Indian culture, it's like, you got to get out and talk about what you got, right? And create those companies. And the other thing is you've got to be connected to understand what's happening in the rest of the world so you can make products or services that'll meet the demand. So it's getting the word out. The talent's incredible. The talent's incredible. And I was just thinking, and I love chicken vindaloo too. That's incredible too. I could eat Indian food every day, morning, noon, and night. I got to tell you. But anyhow, there's incredible opportunity, and we need to work together to create a better world. The other thing is having the English speaking capabilities. It just, it's not like dealing with some countries. There's instant connection because there isn't a language gap, and there's not a cultural gap. So if you look at not as great of a cultural gap, if you look at it, that's really where the opportunity is. But now we got to move AI and quantum computing. Let's go out and serve those environments. Let's go out and create the greatest AI companies the world has ever seen. Let's move into the quantum realm. Let's do it together. Let's make the world a better place. And India is ripe for this fourth industrial revolution to really. I remember reading an article in 2019 about India's participation in digital transformation. Well, because of the pandemic, think about it. Then amazing things have happened. In fact, I just read that the first time in 30 years, the Himalayan mountains were seen. So, there's incredible opportunity for each and every one of us. The key is we got to jump on it. We got to do the sales, marketing, business development, and we got to open the veil and show people all the opportunities that are out there and the talents that we have. So it is the time.
Thank you, Gary. From your words, we can deduce that we need to be more extroverted kind of nature,
Less
and more.
humble. I mean, less humble. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You got to be more like Americans in Silicon Valley. Less humble.
All right.
You got to
Great.
talk about what you got. You know what I mean? It's like if you got something special, you should talk about it. You know, and that's one of the challenges I see. By the way, that happens with a lot of technologists from a lot of countries. They don't talk about, really, they're not charismatic. They're not enchanting about, and I'm not saying it's not their quality. It's just not what they do. You have to practice it. But if you have something, you got to talk about it. Let the world know what you have. Because if only your group of friends understands you got something cool, that's one thing. But if the world understands you have something cool and you're making a dent in the universe, that's a totally different situation. And that's what we got to do.
I totally agree with you, Gary. Thanks for those words. And Tushar, what do you think the current challenges, being an Indian and being brought up by the Indian culture, what do you think the current challenges that average Indian graduate faces in terms of technology, and like average Indian entrepreneur faces in terms of technology on the world stage?
So, I agree with a lot of what Gary said and Harsh said, but, I have my own perspective there. So, it really depends on which people you look up to. And, if you look up to Elon Musk, then you will try to land your reusable spacecraft on a platform in between the sea and not on the ground. Because the moment that the thing succeeds, it is such a big marketing splash, you will get $100 billion. You will try to send a Tesla Roadster out on space with a music playing and make it like. But look at the idols we have. We have idols, people who are humble and they did it. Yet they are humble, like Mr. Ratan Tata, like Mr. Narayan Murthy, like of course there are some others like Vijay Mallya and Mr. Mukesh Ambani who are like who. Have big way to showcase what they're doing. So it is also a cultural thing. But okay, from the education perspective, a lot of things are changing. I was giving a talk at one of the business schools, and I have another one coming up, and I see that almost all the business schools, almost all the good colleges, they have incubation center, they have startup forums, and they have industry interactions, and things have really changed since the time when we used to study. I did my MBA from Delhi University, so things have really changed. I do see that lack of access to capital is still an issue, whether it is on the debt side or on the equity side. That is still an issue for businesses. And because of historical legacy reasons, the rate of interest on debt in India is as high as 9, 10, 11, 12%, which is quite a lot if you compare yourself with entrepreneurs from other countries like Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asia, US, where you get debt at 1%, 2%. So that is a big hindrance. The second thing is that intellectual property based funding, which is very easy in Singapore, in UK, US, UK, that is still not so developed. The third part is that anybody wanting to do manufacturing kind of business faces a lot of laws and a lot of regulations. But the good part is that recently 59 labor laws were converted into 4 labor codes. So you can imagine the work which has gone on that side. English speaking is our biggest asset in terms of doing global work, but it is the biggest liability also, because a lot of our educational institutions, they don't teach English. So what happens is that the bright students coming out from those institutions, they don't have anywhere to go. they are bright, they're intelligent, they just don't know English, so they hit a glass ceiling and they have to skill themselves out of their villages somehow. So that is why this year the Indian government gave a very high honor to the founder of Zoho. So he's a guy who built offices in 30 villages in Tamil Nadu, and his company is more than $1 billion, and he never raised venture capital. He bootstrapped his way to a unicorn, and he did a lot of good work for places where he belonged, which is the village. And South Korea grew on Korean language. The Chinese grew on Chinese language. Brazil grew on Spanish language. Russia grows on Russian language. Japan grows on Japanese language. Why can't India grow on its own language? I don't understand this. So, when it comes to technology per se, look at from sector perspective. The day monopoly of the government organization ISRO was taken away, we saw huge number of startups in space coming up and just getting funded left, right, and center. The day new farm laws were brought out, the number of startups increased from 450 to 600. 150 startups got added in agri-tech. Health tech, because of COVID, got a lot of prominence. Fintech has been going strong since a long time because of the Aadhaar, the JAM initiative, Jandhan, Aadhaar and mobile initiative, because of Geo, which reduced data rates on mobile by as much as 95%. And also because for 400 million bank accounts were opened of the poor people, and that gave access to banking for these people. So fintech has been growing strong also because of UPI, Unified Payments Interface. That's a platform which was developed for banking on mobiles. And one of my clients is a company which is bringing banking to those mobiles which don't have internet. So that is the kind of technology which will go to the bottom of the pyramid, the 300 million people who don't have access to smartphones. And all these technologies have meant that there is funding chasing unique ideas. I personally deal with a lot of tech startups who are doing unique work, and I advise almost 6 venture capital funds as well into where they should be investing. So I welcome all the tech companies who want to get access to good quality capital, always available on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Tushar. Harsh, what kind of problems do you see? I mean, Gary has added few points. Tushar has added few points. What kind of unique points can you think of in terms of India adopting its technology growth using its graduates?
So fundamentally, the biggest challenge, which I think Gary hit it on the nail, that sometimes Indians can be a little too humble, right? And that is sometimes even I struggle that. So I'm trying to kind of change myself a little as well, try and becoming more outspoken, becoming more bold, and that is something which people really need to look at. People in India tend to be very conservative in terms of their thought processes, and they've been traditionally brought up with a scarcity mindset, right? That there's a limited amount of resources and you have to live within your means, and those are the kind of values which historically have been passed down through generations, right? That is something which needs to change very quickly because the world is moving very fast, and unless you have that abundance sort of mindset, it's very difficult to change. And it all starts in the head, right? You can have the best technology, you can have the best tools in your arsenal, but if you don't have that mindset, it's not really going to make a difference, right? You give a farmer, a rural farmer in somewhere in the native hindrances, you give him a computer or a laptop, you give him the best MacBook, it doesn't matter because he doesn't know how to use it, and that is what is required. The fundamental thing is we have all the tools that we need to succeed. Point is we need to change the mindset and we need to open our minds and to really think about how big we can go, right? A lot of the times we are really constrained by we think that yeah, this is the best that we could achieve, this we cannot go beyond that. That tends to be a huge problem. You really need to be able to see something truly big, truly be very innovative in terms of how we can structure it in a different way or think about it in a different way to make sure to uncover the complete value out of what that product could look like, right? That is what I believe is truly missing. In fact, just today I had a call with another EV electric vehicle firm in the charging space that they were operating in, Their business model was slightly dicey, and I suggested if you kind of tweak the business model to ensure that you get more recurring revenue instead of focusing on a single one-time revenue, that will kind of help you to have much more sustainable revenue in the longer run. And that was something which truly resonated, but they could not think of it by themselves. And people like me, or like Tushar or with Gary, there is only so many hours that we have for us to be able to truly interact with so many people, right? So that is what is truly required: the ability to truly think beyond and really have these bold, audacious dreams, to think through something really unique, something big, and that is where you can truly work. Additionally, even the access to early stage capital is very difficult. So unless you have that kind of existing background in terms of those kind of the right connections or right family background with the right investment who can put like $100,000 into your business, it's very difficult to get that first initial momentum. That is what I believe is one of the biggest challenges, because without that it's very difficult to kind of even and judge a startup whether it's actually going to go to the next level, right? Idea stage startups doesn't really mean anything unless you have a product, unless you have some POC done, you have some traction. That is when we can see that the idea has a potential or not, right? And that requires some investment upfront, $150,000, and without that upfront money to start with, a lot of innovative potential completely gets whittled down. I personally know a lot of startups in remote areas of states like MP, even small towns like Indore, Bhopal, etc. They cannot muster the initial $100,000 which are required to get through that first initial stage. And that is where I believe a lot of innovation is unfortunately being lost out, because the people over there are extremely brilliant, extremely smart, come up with really innovative ideas, and extremely resilient as well. And you talk about tenacity, it's all there. But the only problem is the access of that minimum capital to at least kind of test out the waters and see where they can actually go with it. So these, I believe, are some of the major problems which India is currently facing as of right now.
Yes, Tushar, you wanted to add something here.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that there is a company Share Chat. They thought that there is an opportunity in creating a chat engine and content being shared across vernacular languages. So India has, I think, 25, 30 languages. So a lot of these languages, there is the software is not available in that language, and the content is not so much available, and the science hasn't developed in the content based on those languages. So they created a Share Chat, and Google is now putting $200 million into it. So amongst the opportunity which lies in the bottom of the pyramid is being local, being hyper local in terms of whether languages or customer requirements in terms of consumption, and and that's where things can also take shape.
Thanks, Tushar. My next question would be a simple question based out of curiosity. So yeah, since we are talking about startups that have the potential to rise out of tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities out of India, since they doesn't have the minimum working capital that is required for building a POC or for building an initial MVP. What kind of solutions can be brought forward to in order to help these kind of talent, or these kind of technology solutions that the young talents have. I mean, let's look at USA. They have a great credit-based economy, like where people can get easily credit for building something. But in India, it is not yet established, and not yet been exploited properly. So what kind of solutions can there be possible? Let's begin with Gary. Let him share about the credit-based economy and how the startups or young talents with less or no money are getting out of that initial phase. Gary, what are your views? I
Well, I
hope
mean,
I.
the situation is most startups don't, they can't get credit anyhow. I mean, it's not like they can go out. I mean, if you're a 21 or 22-year-old and you haven't had credit cards or minimally used those credit cards, they got the same kind of dilemma. So I can tell you, with my first startup, the way that I did it, I ended up originally having a full-time job, I leveraged that and I did get credit. I leveraged that and then I got loans against some property that I had. And but I took the personal risk. Remember, whenever you do that, you're personally taking the risk. It's not like the corporation. So if you fall down, you fall down. And at the same time, part of being an entrepreneur is being able to be creative. How do you get the money? I mean, that's the reason that 9 out of 10 startups fail isn't because they don't have good ideas. It's because they don't know how to execute to be able to be creative to figure it out. So how do you get money? Well, this morning earlier, I was talking to family offices. That's a really good solution. Top family offices, because once you're in, there's a lot more flexibility in the system. And those family offices are always looking for incredible ideas. Now, the one thing you need to have some traction for a family office, right? You got to have some traction. They're easier to work with from my perspective, but you need to have some traction and you need credibility. So what does that mean? You need to have articles written. They need to be able to Google your name and see that, see something about you. So one of the challenges today with the digital transformation, you got to get the word out, right? Just like we're here on LaToken. You got to be on LaToken. You got to be out there so people can say, oh, I know him. He does. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Our Harsh, our Tushar. Let me tell you a little bit about, oh, he's on LaToken every day. You know what I mean? Or whatever. But you got to this is a difference between a success and failure today. Now that we can't go out to lunch, dinner, or breakfast like we used to before, in the current world, you got to be able to have a digital presence, and people need to be able to see who you are. So that's really important. Number two is you need to go out and you need to do speaking. One of the challenges with a lot of technologists is they don't speak. Oh, I don't know. I don't really need to do it. I have the best product in the world. People are going to buy it no matter what. They have this kind of mentality that they think that their product will sell. In reality, very few times does that happen. You got to get out and really position yourself. The third thing is, in order for them to be successful, they need to do customer development. What I mean is they need to go out and test their product to make sure people want to buy it. Because you can invent something for years, create something, and nobody wants to pay for it. Make sure you do your development and validate your assumptions so people want to take money out of their pocket and put it in your hand. So these are keep it simple, stupid. But being able to speak, one of the ways that I did it personally is I went to Stanford and took a continuing ed courses in speaking, public speaking. I mean, I liked it anyhow, but I really liked it once I got into these courses. And so you had all these executives, and they had an acting coach and a business coach, and you have to practice speaking. Part of it's you got to convey the message. Is it cool or not? Is it fun or not? And is it interesting?
Great, Gary. Thank you. Tushar, what do you think? What kind of solutions can be pitched to our young talents?
So, just continuing with what Gary said, if you are interested in technology, in some part of technology, you can always write a blog on Medium, on, so many blogs which are available. You can have some YouTube videos, or you can even on your social media, you can keep on posting some snippets about your interest. So, if somebody is searching your name on Google, the first 10 or 20, not more than that, nobody goes beyond 10 and 20 nowadays. And, the first 10 or 20 should actually give some idea about what is it you want in life. And, so that is one thing. The second thing is, in case you have already found out your mojo and you know what you want to do in life, keep on talking to people, keep on studying. Like suppose you want to be a venture capitalist, just go out and read their website, see their investment thesis, go to events, ask them questions, share your visiting card, and and also I think writing. If you develop a passion for writing, you will really understand the fact that how much of it do you really understand. Because if you are giving expression to something, that's when you really your threads start to come together. And so, that's where what about what Gary said. On the other side, I feel that this term has been used a lot across startup ecosystems, like hustling. So hustling would mean that if you love something and because you love it, you do it day in and day out, you will find your calling. And nowadays the beautiful part about education is all the content of each discipline is freely available on Google. It is on Unacademy, it is on Coursera, it is on edX, it is on YouTube. You just should be wanting to upskill, cross skill, reskill. If you want to do it, you will find the content for free. And so just make use of all those things which were not, in our college days, mobile wasn't there. Nowadays, you have access to cheap data, you have access to the mobile, you have access to those videos and billions and billions of videos. I mean, what is there which stops you from skilling yourself? And Elon Musk removed the need of a college degree while interviewing, while Tesla doesn't ask for a degree while interviewing people. And I think Donald Trump also said that there is no need for US government to ask for degrees while interviewing people. So this mindset of chasing certificates, chasing degrees, chase skill. If you want to skill yourself, chase that, and it will get done, because the tools are all out there. And if you really understand your trade, you understand your skill, you will get work. It is not possible that you won't get work. And if you are good at it, you will get lots of money. And if you have that money, you can surely, for sure, start your entrepreneurship. There are thousands of places where you can do that. And the Indian government, it recently allocated, I think, $2 billion for as a fund for starting in for investing in startups. And prior to that, it had allocated another $2 billion. So, and a lot of this money is flowing to incubators, to accelerators, to VC funds. And so the money is there. You just have to hustle for it. You have to be really wanting to do it. And that's how the things can be.
Thank you, Tushar. Harsh, what do you think?
Yeah, so actually continuing on Tushar's point, right? The problem in today's day and age is the fact is most of the information that is there is already available everywhere online, right? You look at Udemy, Coursera, EDX, whatever might be the case. Gary has done like 500 VCTV shows till now. I have done around 50 shows till now. The amount of information, amount of knowledge that we are passing out is already so much. The problem is people are listening to this but not acting on it. The biggest problem right now is people are just gobbling up information and not acting on it. What that creates is you get a people who know a lot of different things, but unless you actually apply it, it makes no sense to it, right? There's no actual value, there's no actual benefit to it. I can't actually think of driving a car just by reading a manual, right? I have to kind of actually sit in the car, move the gear, turn on the keys, and then start it. That is where I believe most of the problem is in today's day and age. People are just gobbling content because it's actually easier to do. It's kind of like a passive thing, right? It's not active. So that is the biggest problem which I see. And being a former marketer, entrepreneur myself, this is the biggest challenge. People are just they enjoy listening to all these videos, all this content which is available, reading them. But when it comes to actually implementing them, that is when they see a lot of mental blocks. They don't want to do that. As a marketer, when I look at for my business, right, the most important thing is if you want to do cold calls, right, you must have a list of 50 cold calls on a daily basis. How many have you called? What was the status? How do you track them? How many are hot leads? How many are warm leads? How many are cold leads? Who are close to conversion? How many of them are converting? Those are the kind of metrics which I believe are extremely crucial to having a successful startup, right? However, most people don't. Most entrepreneurs that I have found, they struggle with that basic thing. The entrepreneurs need to hold themselves accountable that I need to do each and every task which is a lot, which is I am supposed to do as a founder, and track them at the end of the week, and whether I have accomplished my tasks or not, and constantly look at looking at a reasonable growth target of say 5 to 10% on a weekly basis. So That is where I see biggest challenge happening. The founders are extremely happy listening, getting all this information, but there's a huge reluctance on applying that and acting on that. That needs to change. Holding themselves accountable, that is extremely crucial, and set a mindset that if you're not growing 5 to 10% on a weekly basis, why would any family officer or VC invest in your business? That should be the fundamental mindset that every startup founder needs to have. You need to grow at least 5 to 10x on a weekly basis, at least in the initial stages. Once you reach a traction of say like $1 million ARR, then the growth is slightly lesser. Then it is like 2x 3x on a yearly basis. But even then, if you look at it that way, a company doing like $3 million in a year, they grow 3x, $3 million ARR. Then they go again 3x, $9 million. If they go again 3x, $30 million. Within 5 to 6 years, they'll reach 100 million ARR, and that is effectively a unicorn. So the growth happens with sustained activities on a consistent, disciplined manner. It's not like a one-shot thing which suddenly everything changes and the law of attraction kicks in and your dreams come true. It all happens with sustained, methodical, disciplined action, and that is where I believe startups need to act on a lot. Obviously, the legal and the banking system do have a lot of catching up to do, but fundamentally, it is a majority of it is on the founders, and founders need to take a lot of initiative and go forward to the next level.
Great. Thank you, Harsh. Those were great points. Tushar, you wanted to add something in this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in the ease of business rankings, India in the last 4 or 5 years has almost jumped 60 to 70 points. 60 to 70 places. So a lot of work has gone into and the number of startups registered with Startup India. I remember sometime back I was seeing a figure of 28,000, and recently I was checking the website, it was 42,000. It's mind-boggling. So the amount of entrepreneurship which is taking shape into genuine startups. Of course, the failure rate of startups is quite high as in all countries. But another very critical factor which is dragging India down is contract enforcement. So all the foreign investors who do business in India, they keep the holding company outside India in a lot of cases. They keep the arbitration clause either in Singapore or UK, because in terms of contract enforcement, India is at par with African countries. Because the judiciary does not report to the government. It is the only country in the world where the judiciary does not report to anyone. It is free like a bird. And the government tried to correct it by bringing a law that the judges will be appointed by a 3-member committee, one the prime minister, one the leader of the opposition, and one the chief justice. But it was stuck down by the judiciary itself. So in terms of contract enforcement, it is very slow, it is very painful, it is laborious, and those who have deep pockets can still keep clauses like arbitration in Singapore and UK because they have money to pay to the lawyers. But those who don't have money to pay to the lawyers, it is very difficult. And this lack of trust, which comes out of bad contract enforcement, it spoils the business environment, especially in terms of working capital. Payments don't come in 45 days; they come in 60 days, 90 days, and that's why businesses don't want to grow big, because the access to capital is an issue always. And all these are factors which a lot of companies have found solutions to these factors, but it is more like a jugaad, which is the Indian way of saying just a short quick fix. So I feel a lot of work can be done on the judiciary side as well, and I hope the judiciary is knows that there's, on the corporate law side, this work has to be done.
Great. Thank you, Tushar. Coming back to the point, for a successful startup that has started its own venture and captured the Indian market, there is a need that they need to go global and capture the world market. So what kind of steps that they need to do in order to achieve that? I think Gary will be much more better in a better position to answer this using GSD Studios. So Gary, what kind of information can you give out for a venture, for a startup venture that has emerged out of India successfully and wants to go global?
Yeah, I mean, the situation, there's really three models of me. One is acceleration, two is regional dominance, and third is going global. Each one of them has hurdles, right? So the first part is they realize that they want to do it. So that's door number one. But what Tushar said about the rule of law, it's really important because if I'm an investor, I want to make sure my rights are protected. If I invest in a company, I want to make sure that there's a body of law that is really solid that's going to back up whatever I have. I also want to make sure that they have patents and trademarks and like the fundamentals. So, and many times startups don't do it. Why? They don't have money, right? They don't think about it in the beginning. Oh, I got this great technology, but it infringes on another company like an IBM or another. I had it happen with me. It's with a trademark, and it was whoever used it first. Why had I hire a high-powered law firm to get it taken care of? So those fundamental steps are important. How can they do it? We set companies up in Silicon Valley, right? So our offices in Silicon Valley. We take operational roles in the companies. The idea is to give them the intergenerational support that they need. One of the things, the challenge today is networking and connections, credibility. Because if you're a startup coming from anywhere into a new environment, you may or may not have credibility. So that's what we basically stack the deck. The other thing is like with advisors. So one of the advisors many times I put on a company is a former chief security officer at Apple. Why? Because security and privacy always comes up. It just doesn't matter where, what country you're from, in some way, shape, or form, eventually you're going to hear about it. So you need to make the company investable. And so having the rule of law, having the right kind of contracts and structures, trademarks and patents put in place, it makes investors feel secure. Just think about yourself. You wouldn't buy a car, for the most part, that's used sight unseen without taking it for a test drive, right? You want to make sure the car, it is what it says it is. That's how you have Carfax, you check it. So the other thing is, if the company's going to go global, it's really important, as we said earlier, to write the blogs, to publish articles, to get well known. My friend who's a billionaire from Russia, David Yang, who lives in California now, he once told me, he said, you need to be looked at as an industry expert. You need to make sure that you position yourself in the company as an industry expert. Why? Because it's going to be a whole lot easier working with investors if they believe that you're one of the top in the field. And you are, right? You become, it's like Harsh uses a secret law of attraction and et cetera, but it's absolutely true. And the other thing is you got to stay positive. Right. It's really important. People don't want to say, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Maybe I can go global. I'm from Bangalore and, we've conquered the Indian market. But it's really, you got to really believe that you can do it. If you don't believe, you're not going to invest in a company, would you? Right. If somebody says, I think maybe I can do it, but I'm not 100% sure. It's like, forget about it. Yeah. So believing that you can do it, that's called the self-fulfilling prophecy. The Pygmalion effect. You need to make sure that you position yourself properly. And the glass is half full, not half empty. So with that being said, and then the team themselves has to be flexible. They got to understand, the founders of a company may not be CEOs of a company past the Series B of funding because it's an entirely different type of person, right? Many times. So I would... what I would do is set it up, make sure you're flexible, use intergenerational. You want the people with some gray hair, culturally diverse, and decentralized. So doing R&D work in places like India is phenomenal, right? Because you get the right kind of scale and the right kind of price and talent.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much for
You know,
those great information. Tushar, yeah, Tushar wants to add
yeah,
something here.
yeah.
Please go ahead,
I am Gary.
Tushar.
me and Gary, we share love for Russia as one of the common things between us. And, but, a lot has been said about the Indians in America who, went there and then rose to become CEOs of corporations. I mean, Google's CEO is Indian, right? Microsoft is Indian. And so people say that we have the right ingredient in our in our thinking, in our intelligence, in our education. All it needs is the right conditions, and wherever we find right conditions, we flourish. So so that is one quality about the Indian human resource. But the negative side of it is, just look at all the international companies, be it American or any other French or any other Chinese companies, and Southeast Asia. Those who have offices in Bangalore, Hyderabad, they have thousands of R&D, research and development scientists, and all the patents are which these scientists produce. These are owned by the companies. So if entrepreneurship is given shape, it is given help, and their entrepreneurial side is boosted, is supported. So there is no way that we can build genuine tech startups with genuine intellectual property, with cutting edge intellectual property. To give you an example, ISRO sent an orbiter into Mars, and in the very first attempt, it was successful. And it built that particular Mars expedition at 12% of the cost of a similar expedition by NASA. So, the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he said that we built our Mars mission at less than the cost of the Hollywood movie Gravity. So, it was a marketing statement as well, but it does show the depth of, the human resource in this part of the world. And I'm a firm believer in India as an economy. My help to startups is, apart from funding, it is also there in terms of mentoring, in terms of guiding them into entering new markets, into capturing the Indian market as well. And of late have been seeing a lot of startups from Singapore, Dubai, Israel, who want to set up shop in India. So that is a trend which have been seeing since a long time.
Great. Thanks, Tushar. This brings us to the end of the show. But before we move on, we need some closing remarks. Any closing remarks that Gary, Tushar, and Harsh, let's begin
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, sure. So there's a great opportunity. The fourth industrial
Yes.
revolution and the transformation has really changed everything. And so this is a great opportunity to shine, a great opportunity to take the companies global, and a great opportunity to make a dent in the universe. And I'm excited and bullish about the opportunity. It's just taking that Ferrari out of the garage, as I say, and getting it out and putting it on the track and running it, and not being as humble, and build some incredible teams. So it is the time. And people can reach me. I meet Gary Fowler on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Twitter, Gary Fowler. I'd love to hear from you. Let's go get them. Let's think positive, and let's get shit done.
Amit, are you there?
Yeah, Tushar, maybe you want to say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. I'll say that let's do it. Let's do it. For all these startups who want to scale up, want to know the right practices, and they think global, and want to perfect their technology, need patient helping hands, need humble hands. I am available on LinkedIn, and and always love to be on this show with Amit, Harsh, Gary, all three of you. And And my LinkedIn is Tushar Consul from Consultancy Ventures, as in below this screen. So have been helping startups in 7 years and love to do it all the more. Thank you.
Thanks, Tushar. Harsh, some final words from you.
Yeah. So definitely every Indian startup, always needs to look at, going global, especially in the tech space, right? Because that's the beauty of it. Unless it's like a very local, hyper local kind of a business, which takes a lot of time and a lot of efforts to, kind of deploy. If it's a tech company, you should always look globally, right? I'm currently working with two marketing tech startups, helping them to expand into US and to Europe and rest of the markets as well, right? Because the opportunity is so infinite if you truly look at the global vision. As in, if they restrict themselves only to India, they'll probably take 5 years to 6 years to get to 10 million ARR. And if we expand it to globally, they can get it within 2 to 3 years. So that's why I'm trying to find strategic partnerships across US and across Europe, to help these startups, kind of startups which I'm working with, to kind of take them to the next level. Not just in terms of funding, but also in terms of revenue. Truly driving the revenue with the help of local channel partners over there, kind of taking it to the next level. So if any startups need any form of help in terms of taking your startup to the next level or growing your business, or raise some funding, would be happy to help out. You can reach out to me on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Either ways, I'm available. And if you're still at a very early stage, you can join my free Facebook group, Startup Hackers, and I post tons of content over there for early stage people to kind of first at least start their first startup to get things going. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh. So guys, young talents and startup entrepreneurs who wants to test the waters, get that Lamborghini and get that Ferrari out of the garage and get it onto the track. Thank you all. This brings us end to the show. Thank you, Tushar, Gary, and Harsh for a wonderful knowledge sharing session. Hope we meet again on the next show. Thank you.
Now,
Bye bye.
hopefully, we will meet again. See you later.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks.
Have a